Hello, historians. Today, we're going on a trip to a place where time stands still, where history whispers tales of a world divided. Welcome to the Demilitarized Zone, or the DMZ. The DMZ is a stretch of land between North and South Korea, 160 miles long and just a few miles wide. Think of it as a buffer zone between two fighting parties to help keep them separated and maintain peace. It was set up at the end of the Korean War, the first big proxy war of the Cold War. Remember that proxy wars were ways for the US and USSR to compete with each other by supporting other countries in conflicts without fighting each other directly. And the DMZ is one of the few places that hasn't changed much since the end of the Cold War. But how did we get from the standoff of superpowers we learned about last time to this strange remnant of a war in a country thousands of miles away? And how did this proxy war change the US and the world? Let's start our tour and find out. I'll be your tour guide today. Let's start at the Dora Observatory. Using these telescopes, you can see into both North and South Korea. But be prepared that you might not get to see any people. There are few villages anywhere near the DMZ, and few residents living in them. How would you feel living within a few kilometers of the border between two hostile countries? I would guess you might feel a little nervous. It's not as tense now as it used to be, but there have definitely been some serious incidents of violence over the years. Now, take a look at this map. Do you know how Korea became divided right here? Well, the Korean War wasn't just a fight between North and South Korea. It was also a proxy war. At the end of World War II, Korea was freed from Japanese occupation. To make sure that the Japanese left and the Koreans were able to set up their own government, American and Soviet troops stepped in to oversee things, just for a little while. Soviet forces watched over the area north of the 38th parallel, and American forces took the south. That way, neither superpower could gain an advantage in the region. What do you think of this plan? Can you predict what might happen next? Well, this division was supposed to be temporary, but that soon changed. In 1950, North Korean forces, supported by the Soviet Union and later by China, crossed the 38th parallel in a surprise attack on South Korea. This action sparked a conflict that would draw in forces from the United States and other United Nations member countries, all rallying to support South Korea. Despite the fierce fighting and significant losses on both sides, the Korean War ended in 1953, back where it started, with Korea divided into two parts at the 38th parallel. Technically, there was no peace treaty, only an armistice agreement, or an agreement to end the fighting. The armistice agreement created the DMZ, a buffer zone between the two Koreas, essentially freezing the front line in place. Let's move on to our next stop on our tour. This is the Bridge of No Return. At the end of the war, prisoners on either side were given a choice: stay in the country that they had been held prisoner, or walk across this bridge toward your homeland with no turning back. Can you imagine any reason why someone would choose not to return to their homeland? Well, reasons varied. It could be a political decision. But remember that many families were separated when the country was divided. So there were plenty of people who were determined to be reunited with their families. Speaking of determined, let's move on to an unusual spot that took a lot of determination to create. We're coming to the third tunnel. Put on your helmets and turn on your flashlight because we're going down into the dark. This tunnel was dug by the North Koreans. Were they trying to find precious metals, or were they trying to invade South Korea from below? According to the US, this was evidence of the Soviets' plan to expand wherever, whenever, and ultimately take over the world. This belief in the Soviets' plan to invade and expand in Korea and elsewhere led to an American policy known as containment. The US was not interested in fighting the Soviets to take back Eastern Europe, where they had already established their influence. Instead, the US focused on containing or stopping the spread of communism. Containment wasn't just about building physical defenses. It was about creating a network of alliances, supporting economies, and ensuring that the countries on the front line against communism could stand firm. Remember that Iron Curtain? Part of containment was about making sure that it doesn't get pushed any further to the west. This tunnel here is a physical representation of what containment sought to prevent: direct conflict and the spread of communism. Had enough of the dark? Let's head back up into the light. Now we're coming to the heart of the DMZ, the Joint Security Area. This is the North Korea Peace Museum, where the Armistice Agreement was signed at the end of the war. Take a moment to imagine what it must have been like to stand in the room at that moment. This is the military demarcation line, the official border between North and South Korea. Here, you can really feel the tension between democracy and communism. Soldiers from the North and South stand guard, just meters apart. The tension and fear was even greater back then. But why, you might wonder, did the fate of Korea hold the world's breath? Based on what you know about the Cold War, why do you think it seemed like the future of one country could determine the fate of the world? Imagine, if you will, a row of dominoes standing ready to fall at any moment, each one representing a country in Asia. This is how the US viewed the world back then, and Korea was the first domino in line. What happens if you knock down the first domino? That's right, they all come tumbling down. American politicians were afraid that if Korea fell to communism, the rest of Asia would follow suit, just like a row of dominoes. And after Asia, maybe Europe, Africa, and eventually the Americas. You can see how that might create a sense of panic. And you can imagine how that might convince politicians to send US soldiers overseas. The United States and its allies saw the Korean War as a critical moment to stop this domino effect, to prevent further spread of communism in Asia. So, did the first domino fall in Korea? What do you think? Well, to this day, North Korea remains communist, and South Korea remains a democracy. And Korea was not the last country in Asia to face a proxy showdown. Most notably, the US and the Soviets each backed opposing sides in the Vietnam War. And unlike Korea, the end of the Vietnam War resulted in a unified communist government that continues to today. So you could argue that the dominoes did start falling, though the worst case scenario of a total global takeover never came to pass. So before we leave this historic spot, remember that this Korean War was just the first in a long line of proxy wars fought with US and Soviet support. The Cold War was far from over. Let's conclude our tour today by thinking about the lessons of the past. The Korean War and other similar efforts to contain communism shaped decades of global policy and continue to influence international relations today. The intense fear about the spread of communism also led to internal divisions within the US. We'll learn more about that next time. Until then, historians, remember, shaping the future begins with understanding the past. Hey!